With competitive mode already available to play in the PTR, I figured it's safe to say we can expect to see competitive mode right around the corner for live servers. So today, I'd figure I'd discuss heroes that, in my opinion, are pretty well-rounded and will be solid picks in competitive mode, at least in the current meta. So before anyone freaks out because their favorite hero wasn't mentioned in this video, just keep in mind that the purpose of this video is to really point out heroes that are typically safe picks in a more competitive team-oriented setting, given how they can really excel in coordinated teams and really fit into many different team comps and situations, and less so on the heroes that are amazing at whatever specific niche they fill. Now, also bear in mind that this isn't necessarily a tier list per se, but you may see similarities between my list and the data collected from tournaments and things like that, the different pick rates and all that stuff. But also keep in mind, guys, that Overwatch is a game with hero swapping. So while the heroes I list out here, are great in covering core roles, in my opinion, you may find yourself in situations where swapping to someone a lot more niche, a lot more specific would be a better strategy. So with all that out of the way, guys, and I do apologize, but I feel like I have to put out all these sorts of disclaimers in these types of videos, let's start with the supports. For me, Lucio is a top pick, and that's just because of how much utility he has and how much he can contribute to a coordinated team. So the guy has pretty much everything, right? He's got decent damage, he's got pretty good mobility with wall run and speed boost, pretty easy to use AoE heal with a giant ass radius, and an ultimate that gives his teammates a massive HP boost. I feel like this guy's the total package. Once you get used to his crossfade ability and the amp it up ability, he offers a lot to the team with, relative ease. Now, he is especially good on control point maps with his sound wave ability, which allows him to essentially just boop enemies off the map, which is arguably one of the most satisfying things to do in the game. Speed boost also allows him to speed his team to the point very quickly before it unlocks, giving his team that much needed momentum to hold the point and to cap it. Now, obviously, he can also kind of be like a shuttle to his teammates, allowing his teammates to get back into the action faster from spawn, so he is pretty decent at doing a lot of different things. Now, while Lucio is sort of like an all-rounder healer with fantastic utility, I would say Mercy stands out as the best healer in the game, at least for individual targets. Now, with 50 HP per second as her healing ability, she's arguably a little harder to use as far as healing goes, considering she can only target one person at a time and she has to kind of latch onto them and be close. So players will need to learn how to prioritize targets a little bit better. However, I would say luckily with Guardian Angel, getting to allies isn't too difficult. And yeah, with some decent positioning and some decent map knowledge, Mercy is a top pick even in tournaments and at higher level play just because of how good at her job she is. And if used correctly, she can also prove to be quite slippery for her enemies, because with Guardian Angel, she can pretty much get out of a lot of bad situations by flying to her teammates. Now, with a coordinated team, I'm assuming you'll be talking to your friends or your teammates or whoever, so setting that up should not be too difficult to do. Given how quickly she can rack up points, her ultimate ability, Resurrect, is an incredibly powerful ultimate, and if you're able to survive and really position yourself well as Mercy, you can counter a lot of bad situations for your team. If they get team wiped, Mercy can essentially give them a second chance, which is amazing. So guys, if you haven't played Mercy much before, definitely start trying her out now, because she is an amazing hero that works with almost any lineup. Now, another hero that gets picked a lot, this one's going to be a tank. You guys can probably guess who it is, but it is Reinhardt. Reinhardt depends a ton on his team, but if you're able to coordinate well with your teammates, he's a core pick in almost any situation and team composition. His 2000 HP shield is just amazing for pushes, as it could negate a lot of deadly ultimates like Deadeye, Tactical Visor, Death Blossom, etc., as well as just being able to eat so much damage. It also recharges pretty quickly, so even if your barrier gets destroyed, it should be back up pretty quick. His Fire Strike, the Charge, those are all great initiation abilities that can easily win team fights. Though when playing as Reinhardt, especially against a coordinated team, you want to be careful of when you use your charge, because a lot of times I see people just rush in, charge in as a Reinhardt and just get eaten up by getting too far into the enemy territory. Now Reinhardt can't actually shoot anything, all he really has is his rocket hammer, which is actually an amazing weapon. It does extremely well in close situations when you're kind of in the midst of battle and just swinging around because of its long animation and its pretty decent damage of 75, plus Reinhardt's just natural bulk. He can mow down a lot of squishier heroes in close quarters combat. Next up on my list would be Soldier 76. He's arguably one of the more straightforward heroes out there for sure, but that is what I love about this guy. To be fair, a lot of the other offensive heroes are great. They are picked a lot. They're all very viable in their own situations, but when it comes to Soldier 76, I find him extremely consistent. That's kind of his specialty, is being extremely consistent in most team compositions. I mean, look at him. He's essentially got a pocket Lucio with the biotic field and sprint. He's got a miniature Pharah, you know, with his rocket launcher, his Helix rocket. And he's got a great hit scan weapon that does decently well over range. And it's a hit scan weapon. Again, it's so easy to aim with. There's not much leading you have to do. There's not much, predicting you have to do. It's hit scan. It'll hit an enemy immediately. Now, there are other great offense heroes out there, don't get me wrong, but I would say Soldier 76 is a pretty safe pick in a lot of situations. You know, he doesn't have, that sort of amazing flanking ability or ridiculous, DPS, but he does offer consistent performance, which I think is a very valuable sort of asset to have. His sprint ability is great for getting back into fights pretty quick and repositioning, and his heal is fantastic in that it offers some supplemental healing to your teammates. Now, he's definitely not a medic on his own, but I would say the heal is pretty respectable. Now, with all that said, guys, that is my list of heroes that I find incredibly viable in a lot of situations and are definitely worth your time practicing if you haven't already in preparation for competitive mode. Now, before everyone freaks the fuck out and asks why I didn't include a certain hero, don't worry guys, because I have a list of honorable mentions that I'll just go over really quick. Again, Overwatch is a game that features hero swapping, so it's often you may find yourself swapping from these heroes to ones that fit a better niche. So with that said, let's get into the honorable mentions and start with Junkrat, who is actually pretty great at certain maps for spamming and loosening up choke points, just because he can lob his nades around corners pretty effortlessly. Another honorable mention that I would like to put down here would be our favorite monkey, scientist, Winston, who doesn't actually feature the amazing 2000 HP barrier that Reinhardt has, but his bubble shield is still pretty decent in that it covers a 360-degree angle. It's spherical in shape, so it may be actually good to use Winston in scenarios where you're trying to defend a certain point, like a payload, and need that extra protection at all angles. His damage is low, but it's consistent and it's pretty easy to use because it kind of locks on to targets, and plus he has some pretty good mobility with his leap, allowing him to be an initiator of sorts, much like Reinhardt. Now, another honorable mention would be McCree. If you don't like Soldier 76, McCree is still a decent pick. He did get nerfed pretty hard, but if you have decent aim, his left click, which still does 70 damage per body shot, which is 140 for headshots, is amazing. His fan is not like what it once was, so I'd be a little bit more careful with using against anyone with more than 200 HP. Anyways guys, that's just about it for today's video. I'm sure there's a lot of other heroes that I left out that maybe you find incredibly powerful and are must-haves in your competitive lineup. So if I left someone else that you feel should be in, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. Express yourself, give me your thoughts. I would love to hear from you guys. Again, this isn't necessarily a tier list, but rather a collection of heroes that I find incredibly handy to have some knowledge of when going into competitive, just because they can fit into many different team comps and are quite good in a lot of different situations. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, and if you're new and you enjoy my content, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos. I guess that's all for today guys, and until next time, I'll see you in the next one.